Welcome to another episode of Mastering Counseling, where we dive deep into the world of therapy and the business behind it. I'm your host, Becky Copeland. Today, we're diving into the intricate world of relationships and therapy with an esteemed guest. It's my pleasure to introduce Nadyne Busichio, a licensed professional counselor and a Gottman Level 3 couples therapist whose expertise in transforming relationships and fostering emotional connections. This is going to be such an exciting time to hear from you, Nadyne, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to chatting today.
All right. We will start hearing because there's so much to hear about from her. Why don't we go ahead and start? If you can share the inspiration behind establishing, but you know what? We got to fix it again. Because you know what? I wrote it wrong.
That's okay.
Busichio.
Yeah.
I put B-A-K and then I'm like, wait, I'm not reading it right. All right. Busichio.
That's
Okay.
it. Busichio.
We'll tell him to cut that out at, like 5 minutes in. All right. I'll start with the question again and then,
Okay.
All right. Let's go ahead and start by uncovering your early journey and the inspiration behind establishing Busichio Counseling and your commitment to helping couples and individuals build healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
Yeah. So, okay. So I've been with my husband for 15 years. We've been together for about 15 years. And we have two small children. My daughter's 7 and my son is 5. And, our lives are really busy, just like millions of couples out there. And, especially as our kids get older and they become more involved in the things that they love, it doesn't get slower. It gets busier and crazier and more hectic. And, COVID happens, right? And so I think that's where it all began for me. Because like so many other people, I'm in that rat race and I'm on that hamster wheel and things are just going. And, all of a sudden, like millions of other families, we had to navigate a very rapidly changing world. We were all home, which at first, I think, just like millions of other families, everyone was like, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to spend so much time together and we're going to bond and it's going to be wonderful. And then very quickly it became stressful because it wasn't ending. And we had to work from home. We had to educate our kids from home. But then on top of all of that, we had to continue to try to have a happy, thriving marriage. And we struggled. People struggled. And the need for marriage therapy grew exponentially, right? And I felt that, and I really understood that on a personal level, and I knew the steps that I was taking in my own relationship because I knew how important it was to not allow our relationship to suddenly be at the bottom of everything else. We had to work hard to maintain. And it's work. It's not just, oh, this is easy, as a lot of people think it should be. No, it's work. Relationships are work. And so, I knew that it was important, not just for us as a couple, it was important for my kids to see that. And so as I knew I was going through this, I knew there were millions of other couples going through this. So I knew at that point, I really wanted nothing more but to really dive in and start helping other people.
I hear that on so many levels. Of course, reviewing 2020 to 2022 or whatever. Always, restructuring our lives for sure. And then I myself have 4 children and they're a little bit older than yours, and you are totally correct. It changes, but the busyness just increases. And it's, I'm also married and it's so much work. So I love how personal your personal story connected to now this thriving business. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It became very personal. It did. It really became very, but I also feel that was something that was always within me from a really young age. That was like, I can remember, and I know that we might get to that, but I just know that was always something from a very young age. I knew I just always wanted to help people, but that it became a whole new thing for me once COVID hit. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
needed at for sure in all
Mm-hmm.
parts of the US and the world. So um, let's talk a little more specifically about the Gottman Level 3
Mm-hmm.
couples therapy. Your expertise in relationship dynamics is exceptional, definitely a specific niche, if you will, than general therapy. How does this specialized training influence your approach to counseling and your ability to guide couples in resolving past wounds and even rebuilding intimacy?
Yeah. So to start, I do think, it is very specialized, and it wasn't something I naturally gravitated to when I was in grad school. I think, like everybody else, yeah, I went through the program and the motions, and they don't have marriage counseling classes in grad school, at least not in mine. And so I sought it out, and I continued to get more specialized training. I fell in love with it. And I really do think it is important for couples seeking couples therapy to see a therapist who specializes in this work, because it's couples therapy is very different than individual. Obviously, it's very different than individual therapy, but it's an art. Um, which, as you said, it does require that advanced specialized training, I think, because it's one of the more difficult forms of therapy to deliver effectively, because to start, there's two people in the room. And as a couples therapist, it's my job to build connection and rapport with both partners, because I don't want to isolate either one, and I don't want one to feel that they're being attacked, and I'm taking sides with one, right? So I have to have a confidence going in, and you know with couples, you have to I have to be able to be very direct and be a leader, because they're looking for that. They're looking for you to guide them. They're looking for you to be a leader in that room. And I have to be able to teach them what's necessary for them to take out of that room and take home with them. So it takes time to build that confidence and the trust of both partners. That's where that advanced training really is so important.
Fascinating. I love you pointing out for our listeners just how intricate, and I'm sure even different from family therapy, and then of course opposed to individual therapy. So thank you for clarifying that. Your practice is dedicating to helping young couples or older couples learn effective communication and rebuilding connections. Could you highlight maybe some success stories that showcase the transformational power of therapy in healing relationships?
Yes, I can. I have, oh my gosh, I have so many, but I think some of my favorite stories, without giving away too much personal information. I had one couple come to me, and they were separated for almost a year by the time they came to me, right? But they were very committed to working on the relationship, and and they allowed me to guide them through this journey, and it wasn't always easy. And after about 6 months of doing the work and really putting in that effort, they moved back in together. And, eventually we concluded our work together, and I received a letter from them thanking me for saving their marriage. And that was the best feeling in the world, because they had two small children. And I know what an incredible change that was, not just for their relationship, but for their family dynamics and for their children and the future generations of their family. So that in itself is is just, oh, I can't even describe the feeling. It's just that right there. It's just amazing and worth it. And I have several, I mean, there's several stories like that, right? Where there's, I have a couple where there's a history of infidelity and they have 3 small kids and they come in and it seems hopeless, but they're so committed to doing the work and they're doing it even when it's difficult, even when they feel like they don't want to do it anymore. But over time, I start to see the change even in the session and that, things become more playful. There's more laughter. They're turning to each other. They're accepting each other's bids. There's more affection. They're sitting closer. And that's when it's like, yeah, like, wow, this is powerful stuff. And this can happen. If you're committed and you want to do this, you can do this.
That's so inspiring for sure. I love that specific story. And as you said, there's countless others. So, and I just noted the time. I mean, the 6 months, it's probably not the same for everyone, but it was a year they were separated. And within 6 months seems like a lot of work, but in less time. And I'm sure there's more things to do, but thank you for sharing that story. Thinking of you a little bit more personally, which you have already shared your passion for that, how did your own journey of overcoming some hardships contribute to your decision to become a therapist?
Yeah. So, I think for me, it goes back to adolescence and college. And, those are pivotal times. Those are really important times. And I think those can be hard times for anybody. But, during that period, there's often relationships that we as young people try to navigate where it could be with a significant other, with friends, with family, and it's not always easy. Because again, relationships are hard and they can take work. And eventually, when I was that young, I found myself in a toxic romantic relationship without a very good support system. But, I did find my way out of it. And I was very young. I was 18 years old. And, but again, like I did make my way through it, but it wasn't without effort and it wasn't without doing a lot of work on myself. And I continue to work on myself daily because that I feel that working on yourself, I feel like that never ends. And I don't, I always say to my clients, no one's perfect. Let that go. Perfection is unattainable. It's too high of a standard to achieve. And it's just not something that we want to try to achieve. Right. And so, so that was part of it. But then it didn't stop there because shortly after that, my father was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. My mother had a stroke. And then I find myself in my 20s as a caregiver to my parents. Right. And so, I'm doing that. I eventually have a family of my own to take care of. So I'm in that sandwich generation. And so I understood on that level the stress and how that takes a toll on your mental health, on your physical health. And I have clients who come in and I hear their stories and I relate on a deeper level, but I also know what's waiting on the other side. I know they can make it through. I know how strong they are. I know they're stronger than they think they are because I'm living proof of it.
Wow, that's really powerful. And that I remember having a friend probably 10 years ago in that same kind of spot to be so young and it's so much work with children. And then often people can wait longer, but it comes earlier. And personally, we've experienced Parkinson's in our family as well. So it's a complex thing. So thank you for being so open and personal about that. And we can definitely see your heart in wanting to help people because you've been in the really depths of difficulty. So thank you. You've kind of talked about this a little bit. I don't know if you want to add at all that how do you ensure that your clients receive the types of support that resonate with them on a personal level?
Yeah. So, again, the therapeutic alliance, if you will, like, it's a relationship. Ideally, it's a close and trusting one. And again, it takes time to build. And I like to invest in the earlier sessions and my interactions with my clients to build trust that will allow them to start to open up. So I like to tailor the structure of the sessions and my office to my clients' needs. And, it's not a one size fits all approach, because everyone comes in with, a very unique set of issues and very different personalities. And, so that is, for example, when people come in and they aren't so talkative as others might be, I know I can be very talkative. I like to be social and get to know people. But if they're not, I don't take that personally. I like to nurture the relationship and create a safe space for them so that they can eventually begin to feel comfortable in finding their voice when we're together, so that they will open up. I believe that it's necessary, also to get my own continuing support. I think that's also really important. Like I said before, I'm never done working on myself. So, I'm still connected with the Gottman Institute, and I have my own supervisor through them who I meet with regularly. And I meet with her for case consultation, so I invest a lot of time into planning for my clients. And I do this, outside of sessions so that I can prepare for them, so that I can ensure that we are on the right path, so that we're following a productive path.
Thank you for that. So many good things there, but what really stood out to me, and I think would be intriguing to a lot of our listeners and considering the business side of this, is that you change your office to the needs of the clients. And I work with children in a school primarily, and I have a lot of tools I use, and there's not a lot of space to move. But I'm imagining if I had moved to private and was with adults, how easy just how close the chairs are and all of those things that you consider. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. That was intriguing to me. Moving on in our conversation, are there some specific strategies that you employ to help your clients shift their perspectives on challenges and pave the way for growth and healing?
So in regard, I'm so sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Can we stop?
You're totally fine. If you want me to rephrase it, or
could you just, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just lost my train. I just totally blacks out.
Yeah, just what would be some of the maybe specific strategies you use in trying to bring the couple together? Like what might happen in a session, or if homework is giving, that type of thing.
Got it. Yeah. So with the Gottman method, right, there are a lot. First of all, the Gottman method has over 50 different techniques and tools and strategies that we can use, which can be overwhelming, which is why I do like to continue to maintain my own case consultation with my supervisor there. But then at the same time, I think one of the most powerful tools that we use is storytelling, which, stories are the cornerstone to many of the pivotal exercises that we use to move couples forward in therapy. So the research shows that sharing the stories that are underneath the surface of what's really going on with their partner helps them through their differences and the difficulties that they're happening. So often that, what we'll say is that the argument, for example, this is a completely ubiquitous example, but the argument about the dishes often is not about the dishes. There's something else underneath there, and we want to get to the root of that. And it's often within those stories. And then that becomes really powerful. And the idea is to really listen, to understand, so your partner doesn't feel isolated and lonely. And through that, you begin to come back together and feel connected. And through a variety of those interventions, each partner listens, they learn, they strengthen friendship and understand the meaning of their partner's dreams with no judgment and no or arguing a like specific point of view. And once they have that deeper understanding, they begin to move forward as a team, and they're no longer fighting to win.
Sounds like if I were summarizing, I'd say you provide a safe space for honesty and depth of conversation beyond the dishes or the toothpaste,
right,
or whatever it is. So
yes,
very good.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to tell you, if the Zoom cuts off at all, I'll just reopen it and we'll continue just in case, because sometimes that happens. So
sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna move into like segment 3 now, but
Okay.
Can you give us some insights on how couples therapy and counseling can help individuals not only mend relationships, but also cultivate a deeper emotional bond? Maybe even before the problems came, how can this relationship go even stronger?
Yeah. So, again, it kind of goes back to what I said about like the relationship coming at the end of a really long to-do list. So, many couples struggle with maintaining intimacy and emotional connection in their relationship. So over time, the relationship tends to be that last thing prioritized on a long to-do list. So by addressing issues such as trust, emotional distance, lack of connection, couples gain deeper understanding of each other's needs and desires, right? So in therapy sessions, couples are able to explore their values, their beliefs, their expectations for the relationship, right? As well as, gaining a better understanding of their own individual needs and their goals. And then they also gain a better understanding of each other. And so that's where they can begin to create a relationship that meets both partners' needs. So many relationship issues, like I said before, are rooted in underlying issues or unresolved conflicts from the past. And so in couples therapy, we identify these issues and start working to resolve them. And then by addressing the root causes of the relationship issues, they start to develop this really strong, more resilient relationship that can withstand challenges. They begin to learn how to repair. So again, I like to, in the Gottman method, we look at it as a house. And so my analogy to them often is, if the roof, we have a shelf life for a roof, right? So we don't want to wait until all of a sudden the roof is leaking to repair it. We want to make those repairs before we actually need them. So typically it's really more about the repair. We want to do that along the way, which continues to build and strengthen that house, if you will.
I like the analogy of the roof for sure. That helps. The Gottman method is well known for its research-based approach, and you've shared a lot of the tools that comes out of that. Can you elaborate on specifically being trained as the counselor, how those methods help the therapist or counselor prepare to be able to work with their clients? Or what would it be like to be trained through this method?
Yeah. So, the reason why I gravitated, because there's, multiple modalities out there for couples therapy, but the reason why I gravitated to the Gottman method was, simply because this is completely based on research. So again, instead of the therapist guessing what might work, what might not work, the Gottman method is utilizing over 40 years of research on thousands of couples to apply concrete tools. And these have been proven over time to help improve relationships. So, Dr. Gottman, Doctors John and Julie Gottman, they use what they call their love lab in Seattle, where couples actually stay for a weekend, and they're recorded and they gather all the data, and they utilize a lot of different things to help continue to improve this method. And the beginning phases of training are like going to grad school, but then it starts to get harder the more training that you get, right? So I'm in the process of becoming a fully certified Gottman therapist, and it's not easy. They really do want you to hone in on these skills. They don't take it lightly. They continue to ensure, that you're perfecting everything, and so that you can be the absolute best therapist that you can be. And I know that it's not for everybody, but I absolutely love getting that kind of feedback so that I can ensure I'm giving my clients the absolute best therapeutic experience to help move their marriage forward.
Thank you. That's such a good overview to understand the process of using that method. And I'm so excited to see how much you love it and how we are always still learning. There's no real get there. So
yeah.
Let's talk about some common misconceptions about couples therapy and how do you navigate these misconceptions to ensure that your clients feel comfortable and are even open to the process?
Oh gosh, yeah. So there's a few that I can definitely think of that I'm going to take one partner side. I hear that one a lot. And it's oftentimes because it's happened to them before. And I'm typically not the couple's first marriage counselor. So I like to explain my process from the first phone conversation so that I can make it known that this is going to be a bit different and that I do have a process and that I'm not in collusion with either partner and that everything is going to be completely transparent. And, that my job with them is to treat the relationship and not one individual person, and that I'm a neutral third party. And so, as I explain this to them, they start to feel more at ease, especially when they know each of them is going to be heard, that the objective is so that we can create a safe space for each of them to feel seen and heard. Another misconception is that I hear a lot is people coming in feeling like they're a failure or that the marriage is failing, that this isn't going to work because we're in marriage counseling. And that could not be further from the truth. A lot of people think that couples therapy or marriage counseling or relationship counseling, that this is for people who fight constantly or that they're suffering from some huge betrayal. But going to couples therapy doesn't have to mean that your relationship's on the brink of divorce or collapse, right? It's a lot of times too, for those who just want to learn the tools to process their emotions and to really just connect with their partner on a deeper level. And so this can be a great way to really get to know your partner better and to really just have, like I said, an objective third party help you work those issues out. And then one other one that I hear a lot is that therapy can really fix my relationship, which again, I hold my clients accountable for the work that we do because I see them typically 1 hour out of the week. And so I tell them that they're going to have to make an effort. So therapy is one tool, right? But it's not going to be the only reason why your relationship grows or deteriorates. So you can ultimately take the tools that you learn in therapy and apply them. And so in that case, the couple has a huge role into whether or not the relationship moves forward in a positive way. So in the very beginning sessions, I ask my clients, what kind of marriage do they want to create? What does that look like? Why does that matter? Why is it important to you? I ask them to think about what is it going to be, what's going to be required of them, not their partner, but them to bring about that relationship. And I usually have to ask that question once or twice because they're typically pointing the finger at the other person. So I have to bring them back and say, okay, but I want to know what you're going to do. And so that's how we start to kind of move forward and they realize, okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really key in we as counselors and therapists are guiding the process, but it's really up to them. We are not the
Yeah.
fixers. We're just helping them to see those perspectives in a safe space. So that was really great to hear about those. Let's think about for individuals maybe considering this field of counseling and therapy, especially specifically with relationships. What advice would you offer them to help them take that first step towards going into the fields?
So, I think that, our relationships, they have a huge impact on our physical and our mental health, right? So I think, think about how you take care of your house, right? Or how you take care of your car or your physical health, right? So I, we want to take care of our relationships in the same way because we'll bring our car in for regular scheduled maintenance and for regular oil changes with the hopes that it can last for years and that it won't break down. And that's how I think that people should look at couples therapy or relationship counseling, right? That that there's potential for something greater and it's completely possible to have that. So I think at looking at the decision to come in for couples counseling is a huge success, and that people shouldn't be afraid of it, whether they're going to come in for the counseling or, for those who want to be a couples therapist, that they shouldn't be afraid to tackle it, because many people are, because it is a very challenging type of therapy because there's a huge demand for it and there's more people who need it. And it can be so rewarding because relationships affect so many aspects of our lives.
Absolutely. The foundation of the relationships at home are so key to all the other parts of our life. So lots of good things in that. When you think about the future and you said how the demand is so high, what do you see the future in this field? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So, I think one of the things, there's a lot of things. I think there's, one of the things that instead of a tool that's used as a way to fix relationships that are in crisis, I think it's becoming more part of maintenance. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. I think one is the waning stigma of mental health. I think another is that there's more convenient access to therapists because with COVID, everyone went virtual. And now many therapists, if not all, have at least a hybrid model. So they're more accessible. And another is social media, where people are on social media sharing their stories. So they're relatable. And, so couples are more willing to go to therapy than ever before. And then, also what we're seeing is where marriage was once looked at as necessary and a means for survival, if you will. People are going to do it for reasons other than security and tradition. For example, like for the experience of it, right? And so to go along with that, there was a survey that was conducted, which found that 85% of people still believe in the one, and 45% believe in having just one life partner was possible. So the future may be one in which people have a number of different shorter term partners. And this was especially true for women over 45. So the way couples counseling or relationship therapy is delivered won't necessarily be about the traditional relationship as we might think about it. And we're going to be looking at a multitude of factors given our diverse society. So the field's evolving.
All right. So many good things there and lots of specifics. And I like that a lot of people are considering the maintenance, not waiting till something is completely broken. And I'm sure that's exciting for you and allows you to see more people maybe with less time, just possibly.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Can you share with kind of a message of hope and encouragement for individuals who may be hesitant about seeking counseling, but are longing for healthier, more connected relationships, even outside of marriages or, any relationship?
Yeah. So, the reason why I love working with couples, or just the thing, I work with couples, but I also work with individuals who are overcoming any type of relationship issue. I work with people in regard to their relationships. I just believe relationships are at the cornerstone of so many mental and physical health issues, because we're in relationship with everybody. If you're going to be involved with human beings, you're in relationship, whether it be with parents or siblings or coworkers or significant others, you are in a relationship, right? And so, I know it might seem hopeless, but I've seen couples come back from the brink. I've seen people come out of toxic relationships and come through the other side. I've done it, and I know that yes, it does take time, but there's nothing more amazing and more beautiful than to watch it happen. And I can assure you that it does in fact happen. I've witnessed it happen for so many of my clients. I've experienced it, and I know what's possible. And if you are willing and wanting to roll up your sleeves and do the work, it's absolutely possible. And I cannot emphasize that enough. And I know what's waiting for you on the other side. And if you want to come in with an open heart and an open mind, I know that it will be the best investment that you absolutely ever make in your life. And that if it's couples, you can have an absolutely stronger marriage for it. And if it's any other relationship in your life, you might end up having a stronger relationship for it, or you just might end up becoming a stronger version of yourself for it. And there's nothing more worth it than that.
Thank you. That's so inspiring and hopeful for a lot of families and couples. I think our last question today, how do you see this field evolving for individuals who complete a master's in counseling program? And what do you think would be some of the essential qualities for the next generation of counselors to continue thriving and possibly grow?
Yeah. So, moving into the next 5-10 years, I think that there will have to be recruitment strategies in regard to universities, I think, that convey to clients that they have counselors who reflect them. And, so I think incorporating multicultural and social justice counseling competencies are going to be important. And I think training programs will need to provide intentional mentoring, intentional guidance, intentional professional development. I think that's going to have to become more necessary. I think that's more of where we're going to move to. In regard to qualities, I think, some of the essential qualities for counselors, aside from being genuinely interested in other people, I think that will be necessary, right? I also think it's important to self-reflect and continue to work on yourself, as it is to carefully observe others. Be genuine and empathetic. Being able to have an empathetic connection with your client is key to moving forward. It helps build trust, and having a sense of humor. We sit through a lot of uncomfortable, difficult, and often traumatic stories. But that being said, it's okay to laugh along the way. Timing is obviously important, but it's really nice to be able to laugh with my clients and not have every single session be that heavy. But that brings me back to an earlier point of continuing to work on yourself. Seek your own counseling, because we are listening to such heavy, sometimes traumatic stories, and you can't carry that with you. And it will take a toll, and it's going to manifest in some way. So take care of you so that you can be better, a better counselor, a better spouse, a better partner, a better parent, a better sibling, friend, just simply a healthier you. But take care of yourself. take your oxygen first, as they say.
Absolutely. We say around here all the time, we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of these children and their families.
Right.
And that is so key. I love the humor as well, which personally, we have a lot of humor in our marriage. My husband says it's the only thing he has going for him, which is not true, but thank you for all of that. Is there anything else that you wanted to add or you felt like we missed, or we covered a lot of ground?
No, I think we covered a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just close this out here. What a great discussion, especially the profound potential for healing and growth within relationships, specifically marriage. Thank you so much, Nadyne, for sharing your insights, your expertise, and your dedication, which we clearly saw in fostering emotional connections. To our listeners, I just encourage you to continue to follow and subscribe for more insightful episodes. Go ahead and leave your reviews, share your feedback, and continue the conversation on mastering counseling. We're going to say goodbye for today, and we look forward to the next episodes where we dive deep into the realm of therapy and counseling. Have a wonderful day.